The last type of cost structure that we're going to talk about today is called flat rate pricing. Flat rate pricing. Now, this is kind of a broad category, and so I'm going to talk to you about it. It's becoming more and more common in our industry, and so I'm going to try to do my best to explain it to you. Flat rate pricing would be supposedly is like what the hat example, where every hat in the store you just sell for the same price. So you look at your profit and you say, you know what, I'm paying anywhere from $22 per hat all the way down to $2 per hat. I'm just going to sell every hat for $20. So that would mean there's actually some hats you might even lose money on because you paid more than you're selling them for. But the majority of the hats you're going to make a lot of money on because you're selling them for a lot more. But you just have one flat rate. Now, here's the interesting thing about that. There are actually very, very few companies that actually offer real flat rate pricing. Let me explain what I mean by that. Square would be an example of a company that offers flat rate pricing. They offer 2.69% flat rate, and you just pay 2.69% of every single transaction that you do. There are other options like Phone Swipe and other mobile processing companies that offer a true flat rate pricing model. However, as far as traditional merchant accounts, in all the years that I've been doing this and all the thousands of statements I've seen, I've actually only seen about 2 or 3 that were actually on flat rate pricing. Here's what flat rate pricing really looks like in our industry. It's really kind of a ripoff as a general rule, because the sales agent will go in, and many times the sales agent doesn't even understand it themselves, but they'll go in and say, hey, I'm going to give you a flat rate. It's going to be 2%. So you don't have to worry about all these complicated statements anymore. Just every transaction is 2%. It's just a flat rate. That sounds nice, but the problem is it's hardly ever true. What actually happens is they charge them flat rate plus surcharges. And so what will happen is they get a flat rate of 2% on every transaction, but on your mid and your non-qualified transactions, like we talked about in the tier pricing, those types of transactions, they don't call it tier pricing, but instead they just give a surcharge. So they'll tack on, whatever it is, 30 cents for each transaction or whatever. And they'll have a big surcharge table of all the surcharges. Now, the good news for you as a sales agent is that these accounts are pretty easy to sell, because usually the merchant will feel betrayed once they actually understand what's going on and they're educated. So this is where we got to go back to the effective rate that we talked about in the first video. If I walk into a merchant's location and they say, oh, I'm on flat rate pricing, I've got a 2% flat rate, okay? Then I say, okay, that's fine. I say, hey, I tell you what I'll do for you. Let's confirm that you're actually on flat rate pricing, because I know that that's what you were told. But to be honest with you, 99% of the time, there's actually some additional fees that are charged, and it's not really flat rate pricing. Let's take a look at your statement. What you do is you look at their statement and you show them, figure out their effective rate. So for instance, let's say you have somebody and they tell you, I'm on a flat rate of 2%. And let's say they did $10,000 in processing last month. Now, if they were actually on a 2% flat rate, how much would their fees be? Be $200, right? Well, when you actually look at their statement, you can show the merchant and say, now see down here, you paid a total of $334 last month for your fees, and you only processed $10,000. That means you're paying 3.3% rather than a 2% flat rate. So you're not really on flat rate pricing. How about I come back and show you what I can do with a little bit different cost structure that's going to save you some money? So that kind of gives you an idea of the flat rate pricing. So again, flat rate pricing sounds great and it sounds simple, and you'll find a lot of merchants that'll tell you, oh, I've already got a great rate. I'm at, I've had merchants tell me I'm at 1% flat rate, and I say, well, that's impossible because the cost is higher than 1%. And do you think that the credit card processing company is losing money on your account? No, they're not. They're making money. And how are they doing that? They're charging you more than 1%. So let's take a look at your total fees, your total volume. Let's figure the effective rate out, and I can guarantee you, you're paying more than 1%. So flat rate pricing, again, it's a little bit deceptive in a lot of situations. Again, most of the time, the agent just doesn't understand it themselves when they're pitching it. But if you go in, the great news is if you figure the effective rate, educate the customer, show them, the differences, and what you'll find out is a lot of times they'll be willing to switch over to your service once you've explained how flat rate pricing really works. So that's the end of our cost structures. Again, the 3 main types of cost structures. You have tier pricing. That's the most common. You're going to see that probably 60 to 70% of the time is tier pricing. You have 3-tier pricing where it's qualified rate, mid-qualified, and non-qualified based on the type of card and the way in which that card was run. Was it over the phone? Was it on the internet? Was it through a credit card machine? That's your 3-tier pricing. You have 4-tier pricing, which is where they take the qualified rate and they split it up between qualified check cards and qualified credit cards. Then you have your interchange plus pricing. That's where it's very transparent and it's good for your higher volume merchants. That's where we take the interchange fee and just pass the cost right through to the business owner, and we just tack on a set percentage markup and a transaction fee. The third type of pricing, the flat rate pricing, it's very rare to actually see that where it's real flat rate pricing. Normally it's flat rate, but you'll see a surcharge table on the statement. I hope that helped you to understand the three basic cost structures.